The following is a presentation of TFNN. Time to talk about your health. Living a primal lifestyle.
You know, we have Tom from Tampa on the phone. Hey, Tom. Good morning. It's bright and early now, huh?
Hey, Paige. Good.
Hi, Tom.
How you guys doing, Nico?
Doing great.
Good. Hey, your newsletter's outstanding, man. I'm telling you, man, it is outstanding. And so is the Primal Edge. I love that stuff. I'd never be without it. I mean, I've been on it now 3-4 months, man. I mean, it's just, I can't get over how good I feel.
Primal Edge is, people are raving about it. People who are trying it, they know because you can feel it.
Would not be without it.
Call now, toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044. Now your hosts, Nico Haan and Paige Clarke.
Good morning. Welcome to Living a Primal Lifestyle, where we explore a return to a more balanced, natural, wild world to regain our health and our rights and our freedoms. I'm Nico Haan. And it's a beautiful morning in downtown Clearwater. It's a pleasant 70 degrees and clear skies, a little cloudy this afternoon. But we've got some nice weather coming up. It's going to be cooler starting, I think, Thursday or Friday. Cold front coming in, so we're looking forward to that for sure. If you have any questions for the show, any comments you'd like to let us know about, you can reach me at nico@tfnn.com or Paige at tfnn.com, and she'll, of course, take those questions and comments also. And our phone number here is 877-927-6648. Got an interesting article from Alan, one of our listeners, the next hot trends in food. And, of course, we know that our food has been changing over the eons. You know, we went out to dinner this weekend with a group of people that we go out with about once a month. And we went to this restaurant called Oyster Catchers. And while my wife and I were out west, we had occasion to eat some bone marrow because they had it in the restaurants out west, just about every place. But Oyster Catcher had it here too, and they put a little different spin on it. They put a little more spice and herbs on it, which was really a nice treat. So we tried that and really loved that. And Oyster Catchers was definitely a real nice restaurant. And the main reason to get together once a month with this group of people is, of course, they're friends of ours. And it's not that often that we get to see them on a regular basis. So it's nice to get together with friends. And I think the best way that human beings always get together is over some food. So that's why we do it. And, of course, we started doing this a while ago, and we mainly wanted to get into restaurants that we may not have normally gotten into. So we're really trying to get really good restaurants that have the grass-fed beef and have all organic produce and those things. And we're getting a lot more around this. And that's kind of our subject now. You know, the food is changing. And a lot more people are asking for things, and therefore we see them in our new health food stores, and we see them in our grocery stores even. And, of course, we finally see them in our restaurants, and that's been happening all over the place. There's no longer enough to claim that a product is simply free of something that you frown upon, because consumers want to know what the bad ingredient is and that it's not replaced by something worse. We talked in the past shows about all these different ingredients that are in our foods, and such as gluten, such as agave juice maybe, or high fructose corn syrup, or maybe the cattle have been brought up in a factory farm instead of out in the range. And consumers getting smarter, getting more conscious about being healthy, are looking to be healthier, and we're looking for that healthier food. So the trends go mainstream. A lot of times it's good, a lot of times it's not bad. In other words, some things haven't taken off. He mentions in this article here, cricket bars, for instance, haven't taken off in the U.S., even though eating insect is very common around the world. In fact, about 80% of the world eats insects. So we don't eat them much in the United States, but it looks like we might. The other things that are happening is acai berries. These are from Brazil, I believe. A lot of my Brazilian buddies who do jiu-jitsu are drinking this stuff. Coconut water, of course, that's been there. Kale was the new thing about 10 years ago. Now there's all the oleifera tree is being exploited. And mainly because these things have really good things in them. High vitamins A, B, C, D, and F. It has potassium, protein, it has calcium. So all these things do have good things in them. People are asking certainly much more for fresher food. We want to see the real greens in our produce. And when it goes down to things like steaks and meat and fish, we don't want farmed. We want them free range. Many restaurants these days are having wild choices, which I really like. And, these animals and plants have really changed over the eons. So we're trying to find things that are good for us. We know now coffee is one of those drinks that were frowned upon maybe 10 or 15 years ago, and now all of a sudden it's being considered one of the healthiest drinks we have. Of course, we know the benefits of our oriental teas, our teas that are made out of herbs, ginger tea, peppermint tea, all these different things, and people are using those more and more. We see a lot of things like agave juice, we have cactus juice, melon juice on the market now. Some of the guidelines are coming out too now. Of course, we have better labeling that we want, and so it's kind of interesting. If any of you have any comments on this, let's see. Red and yellow are relatively easy to replicate. So a lot of these things that you might think we're getting into our foods are also artificial foods, like dyes and things like that. If we think of like turmeric, we think of paprika, we think of things that are colored more of the yellow and orangey types. Blue and green foods are like the algae plants and things like that. So let's see, what else does he say? Spirulina, I've heard that about 20 years ago. So there's a lot of different things out. There's even a company called Black Forest Gummy Bears. So they're looking for organic candy. So, we really have to make good choices for our foods. So when we make them into other things that they're not, trying to hide their presence into foods, that's not good. But a lot of times we want to accent their presence in food. So if you have a meal and your vegetables are being cooked in coconut oil, that's considered much nicer than if you're cooking it into like peanut oil or something like that. So people, I think, are getting smarter, and that's good for me. And I always wondered, too, the biggest thing that happened to us, I think, since we became human beings, and I guess that happened maybe about 100,000 years ago, maybe 200,000 years ago, depending on who you listen to, who you like, and or maybe 5,000 years ago, depending on your religious beliefs. But at one point, we know that our ancestors were wild, completely living off of a wild environment. And that's the way our ancestors and we as human beings have been raised for most of our existence. About 99% of our existence has been as a wild animal. And from that, we adapted to our environment, and we certainly know that we were healthy. Otherwise, we wouldn't have survived. And when we look at the digs and things like that, we know that our ancestors were eating meat as early as, or as late as 2 million years ago. But really, probably fire started maybe 50, 60, or 80,000 years ago, and that's when things really started to change. So we're going to talk about some of these changes and how they affect us personally on a personal level as human beings, and how it affected the animals that we're with, too. So stick around for that. Number here is 877-927-6648. Please take time to look at our Health Signals newsletter, pick up some Primal Edge Daily Supplement, and I will be right back. You know what's cool? Taking something that's good for you. Something specifically formulated to help with weight loss, better sleep, stress reduction, and the need to detox.
Nico, our hunter and gatherer ancestors found all their nutritional requirements for health in their wild environment. But today, our food sources no longer contain the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients our bodies need to stay healthy and strong.
That's why we need Primal Edge Daily Nutrition. It includes a special blend of ionic, soil-based vitamins, minerals, fatty, and amino acids in an easy-to-use liquid form.
Primal Edge is powered by highly concentrated fulvic and humic acids, nature's preferred delivery system. They have been called miracle molecules because, like sunlight, air, and water, Life cannot exist without them.
That's right, Paige. They ensure we receive all the nutrition we need to be healthy and thrive. We take it every morning.
Primal Edge, formulated and approved by Nico and Paige of Living a Primal Lifestyle. Buy it today for just $89. Click on the Primal Edge banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Platinum, grains, crude oil, gold, copper, cattle, hogs, gasoline, natural gas, coffee, cotton, cocoa, and sugar. These are just some of the commodities mentioned in the most recent issue of Andy Hecht's Techno-Mental Commodity Report. Andy publishes his weekly newsletter every Thursday morning, where he breaks down the commodity market and provides his subscribers with specific trading recommendations based on his trading methodology. By signing up for a free trial to the Techno-Mental Commodity Report, you'll get a full 30 days to try out this powerful newsletter service and see for yourself the types of trades Andy has recommended for his subscribers. When you sign up for a 30-day free trial, you're under no obligation to pay anything. And should you decide to continue, you will lock in the low rate of only $79 a month. Sign up right now for the Techno-Mental Commodity Report and make sure you're ready to catch the next big trade in commodities. For more information and to get started today, visit the front page of TFNN.com.
Are China A shares hot or not? If you trade China A shares, now may be time to take a closer look. Trade CHAU or CHAD, Directions Daily CSI 300 China A share bull and bear ETFs. China A shares in either direction. Visit directioninvestments.com today. An investor should consider the investment objectives, risks, charges, and expenses of the Direction shares carefully before investing. The prospectus and summary prospectus contain this and other information about Direction shares. To obtain a prospectus or summary prospectus, please contact Direction shares at 866-476-7523. The prospectus or summary prospectus should be read carefully before investing. An investment in the funds is subject to risk, including the possible loss of principal. The funds are designed to be utilized only by sophisticated investors such as traders and active investors. Distributor Foreside Fund Services, LLC.
Nico and Paige take your phone calls now. Toll free at 1-877-927-6648. Internationally at 727-445-1044.
Welcome back to the show, folks. I got an article here that 7 signs that humans are domestic animals. Thought this was very interesting. Tens of thousands of years ago, humans were wild animals. Our ancestors roamed the land in search of food by day and huddled together for safety at night. But then something changed. We domesticated ourselves, and this process didn't change us profoundly. It changed us a lot, and it changed all the other life forms around us too. So one of the things that shows us that we are domesticated animals is we survive due to agriculture. So there's many ways to answer that question about agriculture, but the anthropologists agree that there's the main difference between a wild type of human and a domestic one is the agriculture. And humans began domesticating plants and animals between 8 to 10,000 years ago, and it changed us culturally, but also biologically. We know this from the experiment with pot-eaters cats over generations. The cats changed physically as well as socially. Evolutionary speaking, this is a win because our descendants of farmers quickly outstripped hunters in the terms of genetic presence. This means that genetic changes caused by domestication ripped through Homo sapiens populations like wildfire and transforming our species quite rapidly. And we know that our brains were smaller, our jaws became more narrow, hence the problems with teeth. So a lot of physical changes. We probably shrank about a foot during the next 1,000 or so years that we became domesticated. The second reason is population crashes are common. Agriculture allows human populations to boom. This also meant that there were enormous population crashes among the domesticated humans. A study published last year shows that human agriculture communities often grew to large sizes and then abruptly dwindled to almost nothing between 4 and 8,000 years ago. It's not clear what causes these things. There's little evidence that it was climate. There's a little evidence that it was climate and habitat changes, so there's possibilities for those things. And, of course, we got a lot of diseases. Number 3, our jaws are smaller and rounded. At first, domestic humans had a lot of problems with malnutrition because we were still mastering the art of farming. It wasn't like farming all of a sudden, you know, when we had these different species of plants and we started farming them, we changed the species of the plants too. Some of these plants, like some of the wheats, wheat and most of these grasses that we considered the daily grasses that are annuals, that you need seeds to propagate them. In other words, no seeds, no more plants. Again, this is what Monsanto is doing to the seeds. They're trying to get them not to reproduce, and very successfully so, kind of against the nature. But plants naturally do this. But plants in the wild have a great ability to shed those seeds as soon as they come. Because if the seeds don't fall to the ground, they're not going to be, you don't have a new crop. So human beings instinctively looked for the seeds that didn't fall to the ground and tried to reproduce those plants. And hence now, thousands of years later, we have plants that their seeds are locked in there. Think of a corn plant. Corn plant in the beginning was a very, very small flower, and those seeds that were in those flowers, the petals and those things, would just fall off very quickly. But now it's advantageous if we're going to be eating these products for these things to stay there during the harvest. And we've actually manipulated them so much that even during harvest, these things kind of just bind themselves to it. So it's harder for them to get off, and then we invent things to make them off. Number 4 in this, diseases cause more injury than armed conflict. So this is kind of neat that all of a sudden that diseases were entering our society and killing more people than armed conflict did. Before, when we had conflict, we'd have the person die, or maybe an accident you would die. But sooner or later, because of domestication, diseases took over as the #1 cause of our death. Pretty cool. And not true, this fits with domesticated cats and rats, who also fight each other very less in domestication. So you don't die from being killed by somebody of your same species. You're actually just dying because you've contracted some type of disease. Number 5, humans socialize kind of like dogs. Many studies have shown that humans and dogs experienced co-evolution for tens of thousands of years and underwent domestication together. Dogs share a very unique social and communication skills with humans, and their behaviors are more similar to human behaviors than those of chimps and bonobos. This suggests that humans and dogs are both selected for the same set of social behaviors. Domesticated humans are therefore more dog-like than any other animal, and perhaps dogs are more human-like than any other animal. And of course, in the last show, we talked about the studies that are now going on for cancer with dogs, because their digestive system too is very much like ours too. And that was pretty interesting. Number 6 is humans look and act more like children. This is an evolutionary process that causes many domestic animals, including humans, to behave and appear more childlike. In human, that change has meant smaller, softer-looking face, including that small jaw we mentioned before, more closely set eyes, and sparse body hair. This process is common also in pigs, dogs, rats, and cattle too. We didn't just infantilize ourselves, make ourselves more childlike. We turn many of our companion species into adult babies too. And the last thing is many adults in adult populations can digest milk. Large populations of humans in the West have a genetic mutation that allows them to digest milk the same way babies do. And these people can break down lactose, a sugar found in milk. People who are lactose intolerant, and there's a lot of Asian populations that do this, a lot of American Indians, things like that. They're closely to being wild human types. So you can see that the closer you are to being wild, in other words, the American Indian, domesticated only in the last few hundred years, do not have that tolerance for milk, while people that from European heritage generally do, like myself. If you go to the islands, island people have a problem with digesting milk. And some of the eastern populations have the same thing, so that kind of shows up. So these are the signs that we are domesticated, and one of my passions is always be, how do I get the wild back into myself? And I try to do this by, of course, eating very similarly with that we think our ancestors ate, and also by behaving in some of the activities that we think that our ancestors commonly did, which jiu-jitsu, I think, was part of that, palling around with your buddies and fighting and seeing who's stronger and who has the best eye for fighting and who is smarter than the other guy. We've always played these types of games, and I think in the past our ancestors used these games as a substitute for what we now do, which is called war or conflict. So, stick around, folks. We'll be right back. The number here is 877-927-6648. Please take time to look at our Health Signals newsletter. I want you to look at the TFNN page and take a look at that morning exercise there and get rid of that morning blues by doing a little bit of stretching. We'll be right back.
You've heard Nico de Haan as co-host of Living a Primal Lifestyle, which airs every Friday at noon Eastern Time on TFNN, and would like to tell you about the personal training studio that Nico is the owner and president of, Performance Training. Since 1998, Nico has trained individuals and groups to improve their health both mentally and physically. As a certified personal trainer, Nico's main focus is on demonstrating exercises correctly to avoid injury and teaching his clients how to manage their past injuries while getting the most out of their personal training sessions. The Performance Training Studio is filled with unique training equipment that enhances balanced results at a faster rate while minimizing damage and discomfort. For more information, you can give Nico a call at 727-418-8740 or email him at nico@tfnn.com. Let him know you heard him on TFNN and save up to $100 on a special package just for TFNN listeners. Act today.
Tiger TV is an exciting way to experience TFNN programming. See high-definition video, giving you crystal clear charts, as well as seeing some of the faces of TFNN's highly acclaimed financial experts with crisp, full-fidelity sound. Catch Tom O'Brien, John Logan, Steve Rhodes, Basil Chapman, Larry Pesavento, Think or Swim, David White, Andy Hecht, and Daryl Martin in crystal clear, high-definition audio and video. Tiger TV, exclusively at TFNN.com.
Has the current market volatility continued to stop you out of trades when the market spikes against you? Now is the perfect time to open up an account with Nadex. Nadex, the North American Derivatives Exchange, is a brand new, completely regulated Chicago-based exchange, and unlike most other exchanges, Nadex allows you to trade directly through them with direct market access when using their completely free trading platform, which also features real-time charts and full customization capability. One of the advantages of trading with Nadex in volatile markets is that your risk is always capped and you have the ability of keeping your trades open even when the market spikes against you. Nadex is completely brand new with a line of unique trading products that are unavailable anywhere else. See how it works at nadex.com. That's NADEX.com. Or click on the Nadex banner on the front page of TFNN.com. Futures and options trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for all investors.
Many of our new listeners have heard about the Tiger's Den, but wondered, what exactly is it? The Tiger's Den is a lively community where professional traders and investors can meet, exchange ideas and information in a comfortable, moderated atmosphere. Hear all of your favorite TFNN shows, plus see all the charts as they happen live during those shows, and have access to all those charts. You can test drive the Tiger's Den absolutely free for 30 days. It will greatly enrich your knowledge of these markets. Details on the Tiger's Den are on the front page of TFNN.com. This segment is brought to you by Think or Swim. For more information, just click the Think or Swim banner on the front page of TFNN.com.
Welcome back to the show, folks. Nico here. Paige is out today. She'll be back on Thursday. But we do have a caller on the line. I think it's Ron from New York, I believe, was it? Hey, Ron, how you doing?
It's Robert.
Oh, Robert.
Nico.
Excuse me. I'm sorry.
Up here in beautiful Buffalo, New York.
Ah, yes. Waiting for the snow to come, right?
Oh, no. I'll be down your way very shortly.
Well, good.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, I just love your program, but I'm an old timer and I have trouble remembering things. And on your last program, Paige talked about some doctor, and I can't quite remember. I think it was a female. Her name. She was at some seminar.
She was talking about the worldwide choice for immunity, I believe, which was in the Hilton in St. Petersburg.
Yes.
I think Sally Fallon was one of the people that she was talking about, who was, I think, president of...
I sort of remember like Dr. Rose Bloom and...
Oh, Rosedale, we were talking about.
Rosedale.
Yes.
I almost apologize for calling just for that reason. I do love listening to your program. It's one of the best I've ever heard, honestly.
Well, thank you very much.
Honestly.
So how long have you been a listener?
Oh, for about a year and a half.
Oh, great. And how did you happen to find us?
Well, I listen to TFNN.
Ah, good choice. Good choice.
Yeah, I'm sort of a handicapped person, so I stumbled upon TFNN about 4 years ago.
So what are you doing to change your life with your diet?
Well, we try to eat a very healthy diet. You know, like we stay away from inflammatory foods as much as possible. We try to eat grass-fed beef and free-range chicken. Fresh vegetables, some fruits. We take some supplements, and we exercise. And like I say, I'm 82 years old, and I don't have any joint pain at all.
That's fantastic. Not many of us can say that for sure.
Yes.
So did you, when you changed the way that you were eating before to now, did you really feel a difference?
Yes, it took me a little while to feel the difference, but definitely yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, thanks a lot. I really appreciate your calling, and maybe we'll see you down here soon.
You will. Thank you very much.
Okay. Take care, man.
Bye now.
Thanks a lot, man. That was awesome. Yeah, the show we were doing the other day, we were talking about the worldwide choice for immunity, which Paige has been doing, but we were really talking about the changes in the foods as we are today. You know, we are domesticated animals, and that means that we have a lot of things that are different from before. You ever look at some of the wild animals and their counterparts? Let's see, I think I have some pictures here that I could show you. This is a wild cow, and this is one of our domesticated versions of it. Of course, we have many versions. This is one kind of a show bull that they have much more meat on them than a wild cow would. Of course, we have some of them that we dehorn them and things like that. Let's see, I think I have some other pictures. This is a wild chicken, and of course, we have our counterpart, domesticated part here. Domesticated sheep. This is what they look like in the wild, and this is what they look like. Quite a difference there between the two. See if there's anything else. Of course, the pigs. Wild boars look a lot different. Wild boars, not native to America, but we know that the Portuguese and the Spanish brought them over, and our counterpart. I don't know if many of you eat wild boar, but there is quite a bit of difference between the taste of the wild boar and the fat especially. Because one thing we do know is that when you take a domesticated animal and put it beside the wild version of it, not only do they look different, but they certainly always act different too, but they also taste different. And that has to do with the omega-3 and omega-6 ratio. In wild animals that forage on their own, the ratio is 1 to 1, maybe 3 to 1, and depending on the different types of species. And we're talking animals, we're talking also fish. In the domesticated version, that number is skewed to 15 to 30 to 1, omega-6 to omega-3. So there's a lot more omega-6 in there, which is a highly inflammatory. So if the number is skewed badly, then of course we have a big change in how that reacts to our food. And Robert was saying that he has no joint pains and things like this, and this is probably due to the types of food that he is eating on a daily basis. Less inflammatory food, you're going to have less pain, and then it just makes sense. So there's quite a few changes, and of course human beings, we changed a lot too. So, and that's the thing too. And there's another article here that I was looking at, and it questions whether are wild animals happier than domesticated animals. Well, think of yourself in a cage, and even though you're being fed well and taken care of well, are you going to be happier in that cage or when you're let out? I mean, that's the way I really think about it. I think about that as being jailed, pretty much the same thing. And in jail, it might not be so much fun because you don't get to socialize with who you socialize, but that's the same in domestication. We don't really get to socialize with who we want to. Our animals certainly do not also. And no matter how much the animals seem to like being in a enclosure of some kind, whether it's a large enclosure or a small enclosure, just open that gate and see if the animal wants to leave. And if they want to leave, then we know that they're going to be happier out there. No matter the dangers, no matter that they have to find their own food, they're just happier that way because that's the way we are meant to be. We do have certain species like dogs and cats, and we have probably about 7 or 8 different species of animals that we domesticated. I got a chart here, shows the horse and the zebra. 2 similar animals, one is domesticated and one is not. The zebra never has been domesticated. They're kind of nasty animals, they bite a lot. They have better vision than horses, so they're very, very hard to rope. They see that rope coming around their neck and they shy away from that, so that's kind of interesting. Reindeer can be domesticated, we know, but elk cannot. Seem like almost a similar species, but they are radically different in what they are allowing us to do. Bighorn sheep of North America have never been domesticated, whereas most sheep species have. Different cows, the African buffalo, we've seen some of the buffaloes being domesticated as far as pulling things like that, but generally the African buffalo cannot be domesticated, where a cow is domesticated. Goats the same way. They have the Rocky Mountain goat. Look at how different it looks to the normal billy goat that we see. And the same thing goes with some of our food. We know that almonds had strychnine in it while they were wild, but the species was kind of interesting. The oak tree, we have acorns, and we have never domesticated the oak tree, even though we use the oak tree a lot. And how this happens is that the almond mutates more readily to a species without the arsenic in it, whereas the oak tree has a very, very low percentage. Maybe about 1 or 2% of these will have no poisons in them, and the almonds, maybe 60% of them will have none. So it's easier to breed that out of it. So it's kind of interesting that we only have maybe, I think there's probably about 15 different species of animals that we have been able to domesticate, but the rest of them we have never been able to domesticate. One of the tragedies, though, is that we are domesticated and change us physically and mentally and socially. And we're going to talk about that when we come back, so stick around. You know what's cool? Taking something that's good for you. Something specifically formulated to help with weight loss, better sleep, stress reduction, and the need to detox.
Nico, our hunter and gatherer ancestors found all their nutritional requirements for health in their wild environment. But today, our food sources no longer contain the vitamins, minerals, and nutrients our bodies need to stay healthy and strong.
That's why we need Primal Edge Daily Nutrition. It includes a special blend of ionic, soil-based vitamins, minerals, fatty, and amino acids in an easy-to-use liquid form.
Primal Edge is powered by highly concentrated fulvic and humic acids, nature's preferred delivery system. They have been called miracle molecules because, like sunlight, air, and water, life cannot exist without them.
That's right, Paige. They ensure we receive all the nutrition we need to be healthy and thrive. We take it every morning.
Primal Edge, formulated and approved by Nico and Paige of Living a Primal Lifestyle. Buy it today for just $89. Click on the Primal Edge banner on the front page of TFNN.com.
Tom O'Brien's weekly gold letter, The Gold Report, gives complete and concise coverage of the entire gold market. Inside, you'll get Tom's commentary on gold, the dollar, the rand, the bond, the XAU, the HUI, and detailed coverage of nearly 25 mining stocks. He'll give you the entry price, price target, and stop price of each stock trade. The Gold Report is a long-term newsletter where the focus is on building real wealth through the management of a successful portfolio of gold stocks. With a lifetime of knowledge and almost 12 years of writing his informative weekly newsletter, The Gold Report, Tom O'Brien can provide you with the important market information to help you make better trades in the gold market. Don't let the next bull run in gold pass you by. To get a month-long free trial to The Gold Report, an $85 value, visit the front page of TFNN.com today.
David White's newsletter, The Technology Insider, is focused like a laser on finding the next big things in technology. If you had invested only $10,000 in Microsoft in 1986, you'd have been a millionaire by 2000. Disruptive technology like Microsoft's is the key to these massive long-term profits, and the Tech Insider is the vehicle from TFNN to capitalize on these opportunities. This is the go-to newsletter that identifies, monitors, and profits on mostly little-known cutting-edge companies with great long-term prospects. David's experience is as an inventor of Emmy-winning animation products for TV and Hollywood that propelled a company public. Match that with 14 years as a full-time trader, and he's uniquely qualified to guide you through the light-speed world of ever-evolving high-tech. If you're ready to ride the next big technology bull market for less than $40 per month, log on to TFNN.com and get your 2-week free trial to the Technology Insider. Get in on the ground floor of the next big thing today.
This segment is brought to you by TFNN. Test drive all the newsletters for free at TFNN.com.
And welcome back to the show, folks. 877-927-6648 is the number here. We have a brand new Health Signals newsletter out. And our last page on the newsletter, I have this interesting video. There's an article here about the people who live in a legendary underground town. And this is a whole city that's underground. Quite fascinating. But do have a lot of information here in the Health Signals newsletter that we talked about in the past few weeks, so you can dig a little bit deeper and really find out what we were talking about, because I think that's important. And please also look at the, let me see if I can bring that up here, TFNN page here. We have the Primal Living Morning Stretch Routine. You open that up and there's a nice video in here by Dr. Ryan DeBell, a morning stretch routine that he displays for you. So check that out too, please. So, our decision to domesticate, I guess there was really never a decision as human beings where all of a sudden we were sitting down eating a wild animal in our teepee and said, okay, maybe we should start farming, because there was really no farming around. I mean, nowadays, if you're an indigenous person and you're living beside a community of farming, your tendency is kind of to stay away from that. People who are hunter and gatherers, modern people, have frowned upon farming, frowned upon domestication, and they really say that this changes us for the worse. And we're going to go down that hole and see why that is. So the question why farm strikes most of us modern humans as silly. Of course, it's better to grow wheat and cows than it is foraging for roots and snails. But in reality, the perspective is flawed by hindsight. Food production could not possibly have arisen through a conscious decision, because the world's first farmers had around them no model of farming to observe. Hence, they could have not known there was a goal of domestication to strive for, could not have guessed the consequences that domestication would finally bring them. And what it brought them, of course, when the transition from hunting and gathering to farming essentially resulted in more work, lower adult stature, worse nutritional conditions, and heavier disease burdens. The only peoples who could make a conscious decision about becoming farmers were hunter and gatherers living adjacent to the first farming communities, and they generally disliked what they saw and rejected farming for the good reasons just mentioned above, and many others, just the spirit. We've said many times on the show that when the American Indians met the white man and saw what the white man was eating, they couldn't figure why the white man preferred the cow to the buffalo. The buffalo is a wild, tremendously powerful, spirited being that went where it wanted to go. A cow is completely different than that, and you can see that just by putting them side by side. You know, farming really grew in just certain areas. These orange areas here on this chart shows you the origination of where farming started. In the Fertile Crescent here, about 8 to 10,000 years ago. In the Sahara Desert here, and in Ethiopia, maybe about 5,000 years ago. In Mesoamerica, maybe about 2,000 years ago. In eastern United States, about 1,000 years ago. And we're really not sure about the Andes and the Amazonians, maybe thousands and thousands of years before that. In this chart, too, there's the yellow section, and these are the areas now that is our major food production areas. You can see it's a very, very small areas of the continent. And we've talked to you about weather changes before, and we know now that we are probably going into a grand minimum. And when a grand minimum comes about, there's a lot of changes in weather. So look for a lot of these areas in China right now where the origination and still the domestication of plants are very heavy. They're having lots of problems there because of the over-raining, of the cold. So this is going to be happening. We see that out west right now. We're having huge snowstorms. We're seeing cold in Scotland and in Poland up in this area here. We're seeing very big cold events happening in Argentina. So, you know, with the weather changes, these are going to be hitting those areas now where we produce food, and you can see those areas are not that large compared to the rest of the world. So, you know, it's if it was wild, the rest of the area is wild, but we do know that there were lots of changes being made with the agriculture and with food and with our climate. So what's going to be happening here, and how do we keep producing good food? I had another chart here, and this shows you how the food moved, how agriculture moved. In Eurasia, it kind of moved east and west, probably due to the climate, because up north here, not a lot of things grow. In Africa, things moved from north and south from the central areas in the Sahara. Back about 10,000 years ago, the Sahara was a nice fertile area. And with the climate change happening around 10,000 years ago, we know that a comet hit the ice sheets here in North America, and that's why in North and South America we don't see a lot of large roaming animals like there was in Africa, like there was in Eurasia. But with climate change, and we know climate changed about 10,000 years ago because everywhere in the world there are stories of floods. Wide world floods everywhere. And this is in the Bible, this is in many old texts, in many different types of folklore that you go to every continent in the world, and they have a story about things happening in the sky, things happening on Earth that were devastating to human populations. So the populations in the Americas were really changed because of that meteor hitting there and causing probably the Ice Age, or maybe the Ice Age was what changed. I don't know. There's many things that go along with that. Anyway, changes of wild species under domestication. One thing I mentioned earlier, that the wild wheats and barleys had the seeds at the top of the stalk that was put spontaneously shattered, dropping the seeds to the ground where they could germinate. And on an occasion, a single gene mutation that prevents shattering is lethal to the wild because the seeds fail to drop, but conveniently concentrates the seeds for human gatherers. So once people started harvesting these wild cereal seeds, bringing them back to camp, accidentally spilling some of them, they eventually planted. So the ones they brought back that were still in the pods were the ones they brought back to their camp. And if they spilled some of them, then they would start growing in that area. And then all of a sudden you'd have a whole crop of seeds that wouldn't automatically just pop out. Much easier for us to consume, much easier for us to gather. The seeds would still be in the pods instead of, you know, we wouldn't be picking them up off of the ground and trying to eat them. And then, of course, we had a situation here. Just imagine that we're into a climate change situation, and the only thing left to eat are these seeds. And something happens to us when we eat these seeds. Some of the people get sick. So we start experimenting with these seeds and making them more easier to eat. We start grinding them up, because we know the outside of these seeds is where all the danger is. This is where the plant hides its chemicals to keep it in stasis so it won't be eaten. So we're going to continue with this, folks, and go down this path to find out why we were domesticated and do we need to go back? I don't know. Stick around.
My name is Steve Rhodes, author of Mastering Probability and host of the Trader's Edge Show, heard daily here at TFNN.com. On Wednesday, October 19th at 5 p.m., I'll be hosting a special one-hour event, Trading Range Boundary Lines, where I'll teach subscribers how to identify hidden support and resistance levels, the kind that you definitely need to be aware of for your trading and investing. You'll learn how to plot major horizontal support and resistance, how to identify breakouts and breakdowns, and how to project the next price move. These support and resistance levels work for stocks, ETFs, futures contracts, currencies, and these patterns work on every time frame. By signing up for Mastering Probability right now, you get the first month of my newsletter service for only $49, and that includes October 19th's Trading Range Boundary webinar. Plus, if you sign up now, I'll include access to my 3 one-hour workshops, the ultimate trading signals, the ultimate reversal signals, and the long, short line that every trader needs to know. This is an investment you won't regret. For all the details of the upcoming workshop and reserve your seat today, visit the front page of TFNN.com now.
If you're an active trader looking for that extra edge when it comes to trading and investments, then now is a great time to get a 2-week free trial to Tom O'Brien's daily market letter, Market Insights. Tom O'Brien's daily newsletter, Market Insights, comes out every market day at around 9:30 a.m. and provides Tom's daily commentary on the broad market, including the Dow, NASDAQ, and S&P, plus specific trade recommendations. There's even an update published most afternoons to keep you informed about the day's market activity. He'll give you the entry price, price target, and stop price of each stock and option trade. With Market Insights, there's nothing left to guessing. For all the details and to get your 2-week free trial to Market Insights started today, visit TFNN.com.
No matter where you're listening to TFNN programming, you can always access your favorite shows on demand through TFNN.com. TFNN airs live programming every market day from 8 a.m. till 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can view each program by accessing Tiger TV through our homepage. We even have an easy link for all mobile devices, including iPhones, iPads, and Android devices, located in the top right-hand corner of the TFNN homepage. You can use your smartphone to view Tiger TV, but if you don't have a connection that can keep up with streaming live video, then you can simply visit TFNN.mobi in the browser of your smartphone for live streaming audio of all our programs. The mission of TFNN is to educate our audience directly and interactively through our interactive website and call-in talk shows. TFNN is able to teach all levels of investors the technical skills needed to trade in today's marketplace. In order to get the best information possible, TFNN has assembled the most respected financial minds in the country to provide the most current news and comprehensive advice available. TFNN.com, educating investors. Join John Logan as he teaches you trading techniques utilizing the TAS Profile Scanner, the Global Market Pulse, next on TFNN.
And welcome back to the show. You know, what is the future of humans as far as domestication? This kind of goes through my mind. I ran across this article. Jared Diamond has a great book called Civilization, Was It a Mistake or Not? And I don't think that's the title, but it's something like that. And I was reading from that the other day, too, and really brought me to think about what is the future, you know, because we've, being domesticated, what really set free all these different diseases coming from animals that are domesticated, too. The rat being one of the ones that really put a damper on the human population back into the Dark Ages, the plague, the plague. And that's happened quite a few times, and we wonder, you know, we always are kind of scared of that because just recently we had the big Zika outbreak, and is this the one, or Ebola, is this the one that's going to take out humanity? And, these are the things that are kind of in our minds. So how do where do we go from here? I mean, we have companies that are genetically modifying everything. We have companies that are dictating what we should be eating, what we shouldn't be eating. We have our government telling us what we should be eating. And we know in the past 50 years we made so many darn mistakes. And we have changed our thought about food in such a way that we really maybe don't know what to eat anymore. That's certainly the way it seems to me a lot of times. If I look back in the 1950s and what I was having for breakfast is pretty much the same as I'm having now. Bacon and eggs, sausage and eggs, that type of thing. The only thing that's missing now is the bread, because I came to realize this has been one of my biggest problems is bread and pasta just doesn't agree with my digestive system, and probably doesn't agree with most humans' digestive system because of what we haven't done to them. Back in the old days, when we started doing these things, we really did figure out what to do to these plants to make them so they could be a staple of food, and that wouldn't kill us. It would really bring us to much better health, and well, it's better than dying, that's for sure. But I think the changes that were made 8,000 to 10,000 years ago, depending on where you were on planet Earth, had to do with the weather. I think the weather is what changed it. I think that forced us into domestication, because before that there was really no reason to. So a shortage of food was, I think, the answer, or the reason that we just started experimenting with other types of food. And it kept us alive, so no wonder we were it was a positive thing for us, but it was also negative because we know now what it did to us. So the question becomes, so how do we get back? And I think the solution for human being is to get back to the wild as much as possible. I'm not saying give up your homes. I'm not saying give up land. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying let's start developing our country and these beautiful areas that we have. Instead of building all these roads and infrastructure, we should be giving corridors to these large animals that roam again, because that's what we were brought up. Human beings always follow these animals. Doesn't mean we have to follow them, but it certainly would be nice to have a big corridor in the United States where we could go and watch these animals in the wild, study them, feed from them, and they're finding their own food, and that's the way we find our own food. And I think it's a lot better method. It certainly would be healthier, it would be outside more, it would change the way we live. It would change the way we think, and our environment would be a lot better for it, because the environment would fix itself. And sooner or later, Mother Earth is going to do that. I think Mother Earth is going to fight back in a way we don't even know. So the planet will always be here. Will we be here? I hope so. I'm planning on sticking around. So thanks a lot for sticking around. Paige will be back next week. And if you want to look at some of these articles, I'm going to have some of them in our next newsletter. The one I'm reading from is Evolution, Consequences, and the Future of Plant and Animal Domestication. It's in Nature's magazine if you want to dig that up. Thanks for sticking around, folks. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Since 1984, Basil Chapman has been using the Chapman Wave methodology to advise traders of his expert market opinion. While originally hand-drawing charts from the late 1970s into the 1980s, Basil noticed that prices under most circumstances virtually always had a certain number of legs to the upside before declining sharply. Later, Basil found that computer software, which included the standard market technical indicators, enhanced the degree of accuracy in calling price turns, as well as market trend calls. Thus was born the Chapman Wave sequence. Using the Chapman Wave methodology along with other indicators, Basil Chapman advises his subscribers of his expert market opinion each market day with his Opening Call newsletter. Right now, you can get a 2-week free trial to the Opening Call, Basil's daily trading newsletter, by visiting the front page of TFNN.com. Cancel at any time during that trial and pay absolutely nothing. Get your 2-week free trial to Basil's newsletter, The Opening Call, today by visiting TFNN.com.
You're watching Tiger TV.